Hey folks, welcome back to DCS. So if you watched my last video, you'll know that the DLSS patch has been added now. But before we get to the DLSS footage, we need to actually get through all the footage that I have from before the patch dropped. So today we're flying out the MiG-21 on Caucasus, on Enigma's Cold War server as per usual. Caucasus obviously famed for having a crappier missile set and largely being focused on gun combat. I really like gun combat, so I really like Caucasus. I feel that missiles kind of rob you of glory because they're a bit of an easy way of getting kills where you have to work a little bit harder for gun kills. It feels like you've earned it more when you get a good streak going. So we're going to skip ahead to the first engagement now that we've got wheels up and flaps up. We've got four contacts, three F5s and one F86 within 7 miles, and I can see 2 contacts over here, so we're gonna focus down one. I know that they're fighting each other, so if I stick on one, it will lead me to the other. I don't necessarily have to pay attention to both, and that is an F5, so the chances are that the other one was friendly anyway, so I picked right. Because he's already caught up with whoever else he was paying attention to, I don't think he's going to switch his attention to me anytime soon, so rather than pulling hard and bleeding off all my speed, I'm just going to take a wider loop, keep the burner on and just maintain my speed. And as we loop around, we can see there's actually 4 contacts there, not just 2. We've got 3 F5s and a Mirage F1 according to the EWR calls. Based on who's shooting, I can figure out which one is which, and now that we're close enough I can visually ID that the highest one currently is the Mirage F1, so I can switch my attention between the rest and see if we can't pick one off. So kind of a wasted missile shot really, but I go for this guy because he's the lowest energy state, and at this point when we're so heavily outnumbered it's more important to kill who you can kill than focus on helping your teammates out. Unfortunately the teammate does end up dying, but at least one of theirs is dead as well. If I had gone for the other guy I might have not killed any of them, and then I would have had an extra F5 to fight. Because he was paying attention to my friendly, he didn't even notice that I was there, he didn't even notice that his teammate died, so I'm able to fall back down on him. And I'm actually baffled that that missile made that turn, but I'm not complaining. And then we have another one behind us. I don't think I saw him at the time, so at the moment I'm just running cold for terrain cover. But then the EWR call tells me that he's 1.3 miles my 6, so I look behind me and I have spotted him now. Slightly worried about crashing into the mountain there, so we pull up. And I wouldn't normally go vertical like this to defend, but the terrain caught me out and now I'm kind of stuck with it. So one benefit of going vertical like this is that without the ground in your frame of view as a frame of reference, it's actually quite difficult to gauge which way people are going in order to pull lead for gunshots. So he does get some hits, but he's not able to maintain a bead on target enough to actually kill me. And he overshoots, so I'm able to roll in behind him, which works out quite well. And then we try for some sort of speculative gunshots as he crosses the nose. The MiG-21's gun is notoriously difficult to lead, at least for me. But the benefit of it is that the fire rate is insane, so if you are able to pull a line ahead of them, and they'll surely fly into one of them, so the angle that shot was taken at, not so great for how the MiG-21's gun needs to be used. He is entering a flat rate. I could be pulling a lot harder here, but I don't want to lose all my speed, and I know that if he pulls hard to get behind me, he will lose all of his, so I'm playing the long game here. And the fact that we're in a mountain valley means that he's also going to have to climb through his rate, and with his underpower engines I'm more likely to win. So playing the long game paid off quite well there, and he is attempting to run away, which he's never going to be able to do from a MiG-21. So I'm playing a bit of HUD BFM here and actually pointing my nose more or less at him. The reason for that is because I don't want him to dip behind a mountain and me lose sight of him completely, so I can't really afford to enter a lag turn in case he dips behind terrain and I lose sight of him. As he dives into the trees, we zoom in a bit. He's still continuing his rate, but now on the EWR reports we've got another contact within 4.7 kilometers, which is obviously very close. I'm trying to check 6 whilst not losing the guy in front of me. And there he is, actually, look, just flying over our head. So I jink a little bit in case he gets a gunshot. And then go straight back into the original guy. Because that guy overshot, he's having to turn around and he actually just went over our head. But it's a Sabre, which are quite tricksy, annoying things to deal with in a 21. When I'm slow like this, they can stick to me like glue. So I'm just going to hope that he struggles to retain visual and just try and focus on getting this guy out of the fight. I'm not sure if he actually saw that launch because it's odd that he didn't flare, but I'm very worried about being missiled from the rear. I've lost sight of the F5 now, so rather than attempting to continue the fight, knowing that it's an FA6, I can outrun an FA6, but I can't outrun a missile. So if he'd fired slightly later, I might have got around that mountain and been able to use it as cover. Unfortunate loss there, but that's the end of the first engagement. Moving on to the second engagement, so we respawned, we set the plane up again, we set off, and we come across this Vigan on a friendly, and the only reason I'm including this clip is because the next clip is about trying to posture for a missile shot when you don't have any gun ammo. And this guy is why I don't have any gun ammo. I just wasn't pulling enough lead. I was saying earlier that if you pull like straight ahead you can just fire a burst to fly into, but it's deceptive just how much you want to pull ahead. Like even for how close he is now, look how much lead I pull before the shots actually hit him. It's kind of wild. Only just clip his wingtip. Alright, so this is the main bit, I guess. So we just ran out of ammo by shooting him in that head on. I now only have missiles, and as we know, we're on coxes, so the missiles are shit. Which means that I have to get directly behind him, fire relatively low aspect, and ideally be far enough away that the missile has some chance to correct for its path. So I want to aim it pretty true and have it not need to deviate too much. MiG-21 obviously massive power advantage in terms of engine thrust over the F5, but the F5 can pull a stupid amount of AOA, and pulling a lot of AOA means that my missile's generally going to have to turn a little bit regardless of distance fired, which is not good for me. So how can I limit him from being able to deviate his course too much, even despite having good AOA? I need to get him really, really slow without getting myself particularly slow. Or at least, if I'm going to be slow, I need to be a very controlled slow and have him kind of in a struggly slow. So I'm not full throttle all the time here because I don't want to get too close to him. I actually want to stay behind him and let him pull away. So I have to preempt all of his moves and try and work around them the best that I can. So he's diving right now. He's going to pick up speed, he's going to pull away, so I can back off my throttle and let that happen. And as long as I'm back here stuck to him like glue, he's going to panic. Would have been super great if that MiG-15 actually killed this guy, but he ends up just vanishing in a bit. I think there's another MiG-15 around here somewhere too. This looks like a good opportunity. But nah, he just started pulling too much. If the mountain hadn't been there, maybe I could have got a bit more elevation and shot down on him and it might have worked. 2 MiG-15s you'd have thought would make pretty short work of an F5 being kept busy like this, but they just seem to disappear and lose visual on him, which is just aggravating. I'm pretty much flying around with my flaps down the whole time. I have pretty good AOA too, so I can keep my nose pointed at him. I just need him to reverse his turn at an inopportune time for him, and I just need to time the launch well. But it's not easy at all. So we're opening up quite a bit of separation here. And he just reversed, so that would have been a perfect opportunity if I'd had my nose on him already. I think he might be about to reverse again, so this is looking pretty damn good. Oh my god, I think that's the best shot we're gonna get. distance is good, but he's just turning too much. But reversal. But he dives as well. Missile loses track instantly. And I'm now out of missiles, so we're just going to bug out. This next clip is more about survival than getting kills, particularly. So the EWR reports you get on ECW are a lifesaver, quite literally. So I was flying around here trying to look for a guy that the EWR said was within about 2 kilometers of me. I finally get a visual when he fires a missile on my 6, and it's a Viggen. So what I'm doing here is climbing and nose countering. Climbing maybe not the best decision ever, but I know that the Viggen's engine can be quite temperamental, so you won't want to get too slow. And I also know that I can outperform a Viggen in the right circumstances. So I kind of purposely pull too much AOA to stall myself out, to make myself do the salmon fish thing, just to get him to overshoot faster. And then that Viggen very wisely decides to not try and find me, because now that we're, you know, equal energy states, more or less, I will win, unless I fuck up and he pulls some magic out of his ass. He just runs away. We get an EWR report again for 0.5 kilometers, so 500 meters behind me. F5, not the best thing to realise ever. So again, I'm trying to do some nose counter stuff here, but obviously the rearward visibility of the MiG-21 is terrible, and I'm quite slow, so when I pull hard, my AOA fluctuates and I end up salmon fishing again. Thankfully that gets him to overshoot as well. So pulling too hard can be used beneficially at times, as long as you feel confident in the ability to recover it afterwards. And then this guy ends up entering into a flat rate. Now the F5 of the MiG-21, if both flown well, are fairly even through the rate, but if the rate stops being flat, like say for example if you're in a mountain valley and some verticality gets forced, because if you don't follow it you die because you crash into a mountain, then I would give the edge to the MiG-21 just because it has a tremendous thrust advantage. So I'm not pulling as hard as I could be here. I'm purposefully letting him kind of win a little bit, and I'm taking a much wider path. I can use the energy that I gain from doing that to climb a little bit, and he's like stuck in a valley bottom. So as much as I'm climbing, if he climbs through his rate to try and keep up with me, he's just going to make himself very slow, and then he's going to end up getting stuck in the base of this valley. The mistake I make here is that I cut in way too early, and instead of continuing around with me, which I thought he would do, he also decides to run away. So quite a good player, whoever that is as well. And he nearly did have me, he did hit me with his guns, but thankfully it didn't do any meaningful damage. MiG-21's damage model's a bit fucky, and the F5's guns are extremely hit or miss. And then third target, we see an A10 just cruising about, not really paying attention. So obviously I think, well, that's a free kill. I could gun him, but honestly the gun is better used for fighters. The missiles on this server, or at least this time period, are really better used for stuff that you can't reach with your guns and that aren't really manoeuvring, stuff that isn't aware of you. Because if they are aware of you, the missiles are useless anyway. So the first one doesn't track. We have to waste 2. It's a bit annoying, but it's not like they're very good missiles to begin with. Moving on and looking at the radar, we have a gaggle of things in front of us. On EWR it says that 2 of them are hostile, but it said 3 on the radar, which is interesting. There are 4 contacts. We've got a Viggen up high. Looks like 2 things climbing up. Looks like a 21 far right. So I think these are 2 guys chasing a MiG-21. And then that's an A4 cutting across the other way. He's turning into me, so I'm not going to get the aspect. These guys are turning into me now as well. Not going to get the aspect for these either, so I'm going to climb to retain my energy, but then don't want to climb too much because I'll go into the clouds and lose them. Viggen gets killed, which is obviously a good thing, or he gets hit. I'm not sure if he's actually dead, but I'm going to assume he's dead. And we're going to keep in this right hand rate turn because everyone else seemed fairly preoccupied and I don't want to make myself seem like a more compelling target. Hostile flies overhead without seeing us, which is obviously also pretty good, and we're able to slot in on him and follow him back to the engagement we just left. He has no idea we're here. I'm diving a little bit longer right here rather than just putting the nose in, because I want to take a bit more time to pick more speed up. And that missile is going to just about reach. And then that target up ahead is actually an A4 Skyhawk. So I'm staying low underneath him so that he'll struggle to see me. But then as I realise I'm not going to get the shot, I'm just going to pull high. Get some altitude to play with. He reverses his turn, but I'm not sure if he actually saw me. I think he did actually, but I'll lose visual with him here. He just went up over the right corner of the screen, so we're just going to dive through. And hopefully he'll lose viz on us as well, and we can try and spot him in a second. So just saw him disappearing behind the cockpit, and there he is over there. So he's not hot on us either, which means he must have lost visual too. So we're going up so that we can dive down for energy, because it looks like he's tail onto us at the moment. But we're going to dive into this valley as we get closer, because if we can get underneath the mountain peaks, he's not going to be able to see us very well. Unfortunately, he is turning back into us. I'm not sure if he's seen us, but high aspect shots obviously not going to work for a missile. Very difficult to work for the gun. No clouds above us that I can see right now, so I'm going to use our thrust advantage to go up and over rather than turning flat. If we retain energy, then we've got more cards to play. If we turn flat with him, then he's about as good at it as we are. And fair fights are for suckers. He clearly doesn't have eyes on. He isn't trying to manoeuvre to avoid us, so we're just going to get close and use the guns. I don't think I've got any missiles left at this point anyway. Managed to nick him a few times, and there goes his wingtip. A4's visual damage model is, well, it doesn't have one. It just has fire come out of it in certain places. I think that that damage means that his wingtip is gone, even though it physically isn't. So in this flight, I took off with another MiG-21 without knowing who it was. I just thought, let's see if I can form on this guy and just maintain reasonable form with him without him flying intentionally to make it easy for me. At some point or other I ended up doing a friendly picture call, and it turns out that this is Tosh Minosh, which is one of my channel members. And I thought, like, what actually are the chances of that? And then since then, I've noticed that Tosh always flies with this, I think it's a Cuban camouflage, correct me if I'm wrong. And whenever I'm flying blue, I immediately know it's him whenever I see him. If you've seen any of the shorts that I've uploaded recently, this is actually from the first one I uploaded, and I killed Tosh in one that I think went live on Friday, and I knew it was him just because of this camouflage. So this is the 2A10 intercept from the short that I put up. I actually didn't know these guys were here, so if I hadn't been following Tosh, I would never have found them. I was following Tosh for quite a while, and I wasn't sure if he even knew where he was going. No offense, Tosh. I was seeing things on the EWR reports, and he'd just like turn away from them. It was an odd time, but I couldn't believe how cinematic this ended up working out. And then I don't know how he doesn't ram that wreck, but it looked pretty cool. Just want to say a quick thank you to anyone that's actually still around, because I know this video is dragging out quite a bit. We're about to merge on the right with an F5 overhead. There he goes. This is a fairly even merge and one of the better dogfights that I have initially, so we're going up and over and trying to make it one circle. As he pulls up, he loses energy, so I pull back into him. And then I'm going to roll with him to stay with him. I've got my flaps down, I'm using the emergency afterburner, and I'm pulling to the absolute edge of the AOA limit so that I'm not going to start flipping out. We just enter a bit of a roller. And I feel like the mathematical precision of this was just extremely satisfying. I didn't quite manage to pull to get a shot. If I'd pulled any harder than this, I'd have just started flopping around all over the place. And then at this point, I have no idea what happened to him, but he just starts spiraling into the ground. and he ends up crashing. So I feel like I was just robbed of potentially the best dogfight of this entire session by, it looks like lag or desync or something. I honestly have no idea what happened there. But shout out to that guy if he's around. The EWR report said there was a Skyhawk 1.1 kilometers to my 6. I saw him, I popped those flares before I spotted him just to ensure that if there was a missile out on me it didn't kill me. Kinda wish I'd done that with that Sabre at the start of the video. It's easy to forget you have flares when you're flying on caucuses because the missiles are so crap you can just defeat them kinetically like 99% of the time. So fairly even head-on merge with this Skyhawk, but he doesn't actually seem to have seen me. We're going to use the vertical, and then I realised that he's just turning it into a 2 circle, so he dived for energy. Now he's turned it back into a 1 circle by coming around the right, so the energy is quite nice. We can basically go up and over and hopefully end up behind him. He doesn't seem to be manoeuvring in relation to us very much, so this might work out pretty well. He's in a wide right hand turn at the moment. Missiles aren't going to get a kill at that kind of aspect, so we're going to go back up, stack high on him, dive for energy as he passes underneath, and I think he just reversed his turn, which is only going to help me out because now I can just boom up and over again. Maybe get a gunshot in as he passes the nose. Misjudged the lead as is usual. He's relatively flat through his turns and he's just bleeding a lot of his speed off, whereas I'm yo-yoing continually, managing to retain higher speeds through the dives, and obviously I'm losing speed through the climbs, but it's working itself out, whereas he's just bleeding speed off the more he does. I think part of what he's trying to do might be to get me to pancake it, but I'm just not gonna, I'm not that desperate for a kill, I'm gonna kill myself for it. Backing off the throttle here because I'm actually quite close behind him, and he's just so slow. Going up is not a good idea there. I think he realises and he abandons the climb, but he's just not got any energy left. He's got so little energy that even an R3 shit is going to get him. Quite a valiant effort from that guy. Quite enjoyed that dogfight. Going underneath right now there are some flares which I spot. Looks like a 21 going around to the left. F5 on his 6 somewhere. I'm actually looking at the wrong guy right now. Missile splash in the distance over there. Not sure what that's about. I'm going to pull a split S into this valley and see if we can find the F5 because it was definitely a 21 that I spotted flaring initially. 5 kilometers 231, so it's to the right somewhere. 1.8 thousand meters altitude, and I see a speck over that mountain peak. That's a 21. F5's crossing from right to left. Extremely hard to see against the backdrop in the shadow, but we can get tone. Fox 2, and he's cold in a climb. There you go. Flares aren't going to save you. Too little, too late. And then, look, shines on me and just puts a vigor in front of me, and I feel like this is almost the universe's way of saying, have another go after you fucked it up so much earlier. And I nearly ruin it again. Instead we kill him so hard that it causes him to bug out. And that's the end of the video, folks. Landing might be a little bit stuttery because I used the replay feature to record rather than actually having it recording the whole time. I love this jet so much, but I prefer it on caucuses where the missiles are crappier, because a lot of people can't dogfight with the MiG-21 and they don't like using the gun. I'm the complete opposite. I prefer getting kills with the gun, I find it very rewarding. But in Syria, 9Ps are so much better than R60s that it's actually kind of depressing to me. I end up getting third-partied every time I try and have a good dogfight. The engagements aren't as fun or as frequent because everyone just uses missiles to get killed instead, and for me that's just not where it's at. I don't think I've actually done a 21 video on Syria before, so maybe we'll have a look into that, and I'll have to just get good. But hope you enjoyed this, folks. Thanks a lot for watching. The next video is going to be a very insane A10 sortie that I did with Sovereign. Here's another one of my channel members. Keep an eye out for that. Hit that sub button if you want to see more. Leave a like if you liked it. Consider joining the membership scheme if you want to help support the channel financially. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.